All right, boys and girls, today we're going to make a robot collage. And a collage is when you make art out of pieces of paper or anything that you can glue down and make a picture out of. So we're going to use our paper in the back today, all those beautiful colors, and we're going to glue them down to one of our pages in our sketchbook. Now, this will be perfect if you drew something and it bled and ruined the back of a page. So I did this with my 4th and 5th graders, and it ruined the back of the page. So I can put my robot here, but before I do that, I'm gonna cover this with a color. Now, what you can do is you can color it any way you want. I could even take a black crayon and color right on top of it, and it covers that bleeding really well. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint my paper black. So I'm gonna get myself ready for painting. So I have a little placemat I put underneath so I don't ruin my other pages. And for painting, I like to use tempera paint. But if you have, acrylic, that's okay. And I have my little bowl of water just to kind of loosen it up. So I'm going to take my tempera paint, and I'm going to go ahead and paint my paper. All right, so I have my paper painted. Notice it covered up all of my bleeding through. And I think it's a little plain being black like this, and I want a little bit of detail. Now you can do this again with crayon or color pencil and draw whatever background you want, but I'm gonna add some splatter to mine. You guys know I love to splatter my paper. So I always use a piece of cardboard to put my paints on, and here's how I splatter. So I'm gonna use my paintbrush, make sure it's nice and clean, and I'm gonna add some water to some paint. Make sure it's nice and wet. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knock it on my hand like this. And what that does is it leaves little splatters everywhere. And I just keep adding and adding. Now it does make quite a mess, so make sure you have some clothes that you don't mind getting messed up. Okay. Now, if your parents don't want you to splatter, you can always take the back of a paintbrush and add some dots like that. And that way it's a little bit safer and you don't get as messy. So that's gonna be my background for my robot. Now I just have to let it dry. All right, boys and girls, so my paper is all dry and it's ready for me to add my robot. So now I need to grab my paper out of the back pocket. You'll notice I've already used some of it for another project, but I want to keep any paper I don't use too, because we'll use it for other stuff as well. So I'm going to turn my page so I have it portrait style so I can make my robot. And then I have my papers here. Now I can use any colors I want. And I think because I'm making a robot, I'm gonna start with the color gray. Kind of reminds me of metal, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna start to cut out shapes. And I can cut out any shapes I want. And if you don't wanna cut first, you wanna draw them first, that's fine too. Now before I glue anything, I'm going to audition it for its space. And that means I'm going to kind of place it where I want it, and then if I have to move it around, I can. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start cutting pieces and auditioning them and seeing if I like it. So I'm gonna start with the body, and I think I'm just gonna use a rectangle for that. And looks like a nice space for that. And then I'm gonna make a head, and I think I'm gonna make that into a circle. So I can draw it first, and then cut it, or I could just go for it. So there's his little head. All right. And I'm not gonna get rid of any of these bits. I'm gonna use them. so maybe I'll cut them smaller. All right, so have my little guy auditioned and where I want him to go. I've cut out lots of little shapes, triangles, squares, circles, rectangles, and I put them together to make the body of my robot. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. He's a robot and he's art, so I kind of like that he's kind of not perfectly straight. Now, look at how my paper is left over. I have this much left over, which is not very much trash at all, and I have this big old piece of gray that I could use for something else. So I tried to use as much of the paper as I could for my robot, and I still have plenty left for another project. So I'm gonna put this back in my pile, and this is all the trash I have so far. So now I'm gonna glue my robot down. So you can use a glue stick, or you can use a glue bottle. I'll show you how to use both, and I'll add and glue my robot. So I'm just gonna glue it piece by piece and stick him down to his background. Now, of course, he's not done yet. I still have more details to add, but I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing. So I twist the cap off. All right, place the cap somewhere I can find it. This is the way I can make my glue stick up a little bit. Now, I like to just twist a tiny bit up, just a little bit. I don't like to go too much. And then I'm gonna take one of my pieces and I'm gonna add my glue stick on the back. And I really like to get that glue on there. Make sure I got all the edges. And then I'm gonna place him on the paper. And I like to press him on there so he sticks. Now, if you're gonna use, I put the cap on so I can use, if you're gonna use glue bottle, remember you open it this way so there's a gap, and then you add a tiny little dot or tiny dots where you wanna glue, because you don't want a whole bunch of glue sticking out underneath. Look how little glue I used. And then I can glue it down just like that. So whatever glue you have, a glue bottle or glue stick, you're gonna use to glue your robot pieces down. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through and glue these little guys down. All right, so now I have him all glued down, and now all I have left is to add some details. So I'm gonna add some buttons, some eyes, a mouth, all kinds of details. So I'm gonna use my other colors that I have, and I'm gonna cut out little shapes again, and I'm gonna add more detail. So that's what you'll see me do next. Boys and girls, I got my robot, most of them finished. There's a few more things I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna clean up a little bit before I do my last step. Give him a little bit of time to dry, press down any pieces that need to be pressed down. And of course, I'm gonna save any paper I did not use, any big pieces. Okay, so I'm just gonna stack these back. And I just have a little bit of trash. So there's my little pile of trash, that's it. The rest of that paper I can use for another project. So I'm gonna go ahead and tuck that back in my folder, back here, just like that, and use it for another day. All right, now the last thing I'm gonna add is some detail with my Sharpie. So you can use a dark crayon or color pencil if you don't have one. Now, before you do this step, you can let it dry for a while, but since I'm doing the video, I'm gonna go ahead and add details. So I'm gonna use my marker and add some last details with it, and then I'll be done. All right, so here I go. All right, boys and girls, so there's my robot. All finished with him. I added all my details, and he looks awesome. And I'm gonna clean up my space, and I'm done for the day. Bye, guys.